The Veltar Armada stretched across space like a metallic constellation of death. 300 vessels, each the size of a human city, hung in perfect formation above the blue marble that was Earth. Admiral Krexthu clicked his mandibles in satisfaction as he reviewed the tactical display. This would be the easiest conquest in Veltar history. Pathetic, he hissed to his second-in-command, Vorthak. Their largest vessels are barely the size of our scouts. Look at them. Primitive chemical propulsion, crude metal hulls, weapons that couldn't pierce our secondary shields. The human fleet had assembled in Earth's orbital space, 47 ships that seemed laughably small against the Veltar Armada. Captain Nexus Void Runner stood on the bridge of the UES Midnight's Edge, watching the alien formation through the view screen. Her weathered face showed no emotion as Communications Officer Rise Stellaris reported the incoming transmission. "They're broadcasting on all frequencies, Captain. Translation protocols engaged." The voice that filled the bridge was filled with contempt. "Humans of Earth, you have been judged unworthy of joining the Galactic Dominion. Your species shows promise only as laborers and servants. Surrender now, and your suffering will be minimal." Void Runner's lips curved into a cold smile. "Open a channel, Rise. This is Captain Nexus Void Runner of the United Earth Defense Force. Your terms are interesting, but I'm afraid we'll have to decline." Krexthu's laughter echoed across the void. "You jest, surely. We are the Veltar, conquerors of 17. Species, masters of 1,000 worlds. Your entire fleet could not scratch the paint on our flagship." "Perhaps," Void Runner replied, her voice steady, "but you seem to have miscounted our fleet. 47 vessels," Krexthu sneered. "We have catalogued each one." 47 that you can see," she corrected. "You missed one." The silence stretched across space like a held breath. Veltar sensors swept the area frantically, but found nothing. No energy signatures, no gravitational anomalies, no electromagnetic disturbances. "Impossible," Vorthak whispered. "Our sensors can detect a grain of sand at a light year." "Human deception," Krexthu snarled. "Prepare the attack formation. We'll crush their lies along with their ships." But Captain Void Runner was already turning to her weapons officer. "Commander Zephyr Nightblade, signal the Erebus. Tell Captain Quantum Darkstorm it's time." "Aye, Captain. Sending quantum burst transmission, now." In the depths of space, something stirred. Not light, not shadow, but something that existed. In the spaces between atoms, in the quantum foam where reality grew thin, the Erebus had been waiting, cloaked not in mere invisibility, but in the mathematics of non-existence itself. Captain Quantum Darkstorm felt the familiar cold settle into his bones as the ship's quantum drive hummed to life. Around him, the bridge. Crew of the most classified vessel in human space worked with practiced precision. They were ghosts, all of them. Officially dead, their records erased, their existence known only to a handful of individuals in the deepest vaults of Earth's government. "All stations report ready, Captain," announced his tactical officer, Lieutenant Void Soul Reaper. Darkstorm nodded slowly. Humanity had learned much in the past century. They had learned that the universe was vast and hostile, that other species saw them as nothing more than useful animals. They had learned to hide their true capabilities, to appear weak while growing strong in secret. "Gentlemen," he said quietly, "let's teach them what humanity really looks like when we stop pretending." To play nice, the Erebus began to decloak, reality bending around its hull like water around a stone. The space around the Veltar Armada suddenly shifted. What had been empty vacuum moments before now contained something that shouldn't exist. A ship that seemed to absorb light itself, its hull so black it appeared to be a hole cut in the fabric of space. "What? What is that thing?" Vorthak's voice cracked with uncharacteristic fear. The Erebus was unlike anything in the known galaxy. 2 kilometers of sleek, predatory design that seemed to flow rather than simply move through space. No lights adorned its surface, no markings indicated its origin. It was a shark in the cosmic ocean, and the Veltar had just realized they were swimming in blood. Admiral Krexthu's confidence evaporated as his sensors tried and failed to get meaningful readings from the vessel. Energy signature, impossible. Mass readings, fluctuating. What technology is this? Captain Darkstorm's voice cut through the void like a blade. Veltar Fleet, this is the UESS Erebus. You have 30 seconds to begin immediate withdrawal from this system. One ship! Krexthu roared, his composure cracking. You threaten 300 vessels with one ship? We'll vaporize you where you float. 25 seconds, Darkstorm replied calmly. The forward elements of the Veltar Armada began charging their massive plasma cannons. Each ship could level a continent, and now dozens of them focused their targeting systems on the solitary black vessel. Fire! Krexthu screamed. A constellation of death erupted from the alien fleet. Plasma bolts the size of small moons streaked toward the Erebus, enough firepower to crack a planet's crust. The void lit up like a miniature star being born. This Erebus simply wasn't there anymore. Where did it go? Vorthak spun in his command chair, frantically checking sensor readings. It just vanished. Behind you! Came Darkstorm's voice, now emanating from directly within the Veltar flagship's bridge. Krexthu spun around to see the black ship hanging motionless, less than a kilometer from his stern, having somehow appeared without triggering a single proximity alarm. But that was impossible. Nothing could move that fast. That silently. Impossible, he whispered. Your 30 seconds are up, Darkstorm announced. Initiating Tartarus Protocol. Lieutenant Soul Reaper's fingers danced across controls that most human scientists didn't know existed. Quantum Lance arrays charged, Captain. Reality anchors deployed. Temporal desynchronizers online. Fire. What happened next would be debated by xenobiologists and military theorists for generations. The Erebus didn't simply shoot, it rewrote the fundamental laws of physics in a localized area around its targets. Space itself became a weapon. The first lance of impossible energy struck the Veltar flagship amidships. The vessel, designed to withstand the fury of stars, simply ceased to exist for a brief moment. When reality reasserted itself, the ship was different. Not destroyed, but fundamentally altered at the quantum level. Its hull began to unravel as the atomic bonds holding it together forgot how to function properly. Shields down 90%, Vorthak screamed. Hull integrity failing. The ship is, by the void gods, the ship is dissolving. But the Erebus was already moving, phasing in and out of normal space, like a predator stalking through tall grass. Each time it materialized, another Veltar vessel found itself caught in the impossible geometry of human quantum weaponry. The second target, a massive dreadnought, experienced something worse than destruction. The temporal desynchronizer caught it in a loop, forcing it to experience its own death over and over again in rapid succession. The crew's screams echoed across multiple timelines simultaneously. "Fall back!" Krexthu ordered, his voice breaking. "All ships, emergency jump!" But Lieutenant Soul Reaper was already 3 steps ahead. Reality anchors deployed, Captain. They're locked in normal space. No FTL possible within a 50,000-kilometer radius. Commander Zephyr Nightblade watched from the bridge of the Midnight's Edge as the impossible unfolded before them. The single black ship moved through the massive alien armada like death itself, each pulse of its weapons rewriting the laws of reality. Veltar vessels that had seemed invincible moments before were now fleeing in terror, their formations broken, their confidence shattered. "My God," she whispered. "What did we build?" Captain Voidrunner's expression remained impassive, but her knuckles were white where they gripped her command chair. "Exactly what we needed to build. she replied quietly. "The galaxy thinks we're weak because we've let them think it. Time to correct that misconception." The Erebus had destroyed 30% of the Veltar Armada in less than 4 minutes. The remaining Veltar ships scattered like leaves in a hurricane, their perfect formation now a chaotic mess of panic and terror. Admiral Krexthu watched in horror as the black human ship moved through his fleet like a specter of death, each appearance marking another vessel's doom. "Tactical analysis," he barked at his surviving bridge crew. "How is one ship destroying us?" Science Officer Kethamel's voice shook as he read the impossible data. "Admiral, their weapons, they're not following known physics. The energy signatures suggest they're manipulating quantum field states directly, and their propulsion, sir, I don't think they're moving through space at all." "What do you mean?" "They're folding space around themselves, or possibly existing in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Our sensors detect them in 17 different locations at once, but all readings suggest each signature is the real ship." Krexthu felt his certainty crumble. The Veltar were masters of conventional warfare, their technology refined through conquest of multiple species. But this was something beyond their understanding. The Erebus materialized directly above the heavy cruiser Dominion's fist. Captain Darkstorm's voice reached every Veltar ship simultaneously, somehow bypassing their communication security entirely. "Your surrender is no longer an option," he announced with chilling calm. "You came here to enslave humanity. Now you'll learn why we are the most dangerous species in the galaxy." Lieutenant Soul Reaper targeted the cruiser's command section. "Captain, detecting massive Veltar retreat formations. They're trying to group up for a coordinated jump." "Then let's discourage that notion. Deploy the Lazarus Array." What emerged from the Erebus wasn't a weapon in any conventional sense. Instead, dozens of smaller black objects, each no larger than a fighter, separated from the main hull. They moved with impossible precision, each one seeking a different target with predatory intent. The objects weren't drones. They were something far worse. Each contained a miniaturized version of the Erebus's reality manipulation technology, turning them into quantum wasps capable of existing partially outside normal space-time. Captain Vexthor of the cruiser Iron Mandate watched in growing terror as one of the objects approached his ship. His weapons fired frantically, but the projectiles passed harmlessly through the attacker as if it weren't entirely real. "It's phasing in and out of our dimension," his tactical officer screamed. "Nothing can hit it." The object touched the cruiser's hull, and for a moment, nothing happened. Then the entire ship began to fold in on itself, its three-dimensional structure collapsing into impossible geometric configurations as space-time twisted around it. "All ships, emergency scatter pattern," Admiral Krexthu ordered, abandoning all pretense of military discipline. "Maximum thrust! Get us away from that thing!" But the Erebus was already among them again, having somehow anticipated their exact retreat vectors. Captain Darkstorm stood on his bridge like an orchestral conductor, directing a symphony of destruction with clinical precision. "Commander Nexus Voidrunner," he spoke directly to the human fleet. "Please inform Earth Command that the field test is proceeding satisfactorily." Captain Voidrunner felt a chill run down her spine. "Field test? That ship is a prototype?" "The first of its class," Darkstorm confirmed. "The Veltar have the unfortunate distinction of being our proof of concept demonstration." As if to emphasize the point, the Erebus suddenly multiplied. What had been one impossible ship was now 3, each as real as the others, each targeting a different section of the fleeing Veltar formation. "Temporal multiplication," Lieutenant Soul Reaper reported calmly. "The ship is borrowing copies of itself from alternate timelines. Each one is fully functional and independently controlled." The slaughter was methodical. The 3 versions of the Erebus moved through the Veltar Armada like sharks through a school of fish. Ships that had conquered star systems and enslaved. Entire civilizations were reduced to quantum debris in minutes. Admiral HFY, his flagship now alone and surrounded by the expanding wreckage of his once mighty fleet, finally understood the horrible truth. Humanity hadn't been weak, they had been hiding. Every human ship the Veltar had catalogued, every piece of technology they had dismissed as primitive, had been an elaborate deception. The black ship approached his crippled vessel, and for the first time in his military career, HFY felt true, bone-deep terror. The humans hadn't just been preparing for war, they had been preparing for extermination. "Human vessel," he transmitted, his voice barely above a whisper. I surrender. My fleet surrenders." "No," came the cold reply. "You don't." The Erebus began to charge its primary weapons array one final time. Captain Darkstorm paused, his finger hovering over the final firing command. Through the quantum foam that surrounded the Erebus, he could sense the terror radiating from the surviving Veltar vessels. Their formation was shattered, their morale broken, their understanding of the universe fundamentally altered. "Captain?" Lieutenant Soul Reaper inquired, noting the hesitation. "Hold fire," Darkstorm ordered quietly. "Open a channel to all vessels, human and Veltar alike." The comm officer, Ensign Raven Stardust, worked her controls with practiced precision. "Channel open, sir. Broadcasting on all frequencies." Darkstorm's voice filled the void of space, reaching every soul in the system. "Admiral HFY, you and your remaining ships will be allowed to leave, but not to retreat, to deliver a message." The Veltar Admiral's relief was palpable, though confusion colored his response. What message?" "That humanity is not what the galaxy believes us to be. We have allowed others to see us as weak, primitive, easily conquered. This has been by design." The Erebus slowly rotated, its impossible bulk a testament to human ingenuity and deception. "We have spent the last century watching, learning, preparing. Every species that has dismissed us, every empire that has plotted our subjugation, every civilization that has seen us as prey, they have all been wrong." Captain Voidrunner listened from the bridge of the Midnight's edge, finally beginning to understand the scope of what humanity had accomplished in secret. The conventional fleet, the obvious bases, the public research stations, all of it had been theater, designed to hide the true extent of human capability. "For 100 years, Darkstorm continued, humanity has played the role of the helpless newcomer. We've traded our primitive technology for advanced alien sciences. We've allowed ourselves to be condescended to and dismissed. All while we were building this." The gesture encompassed not just the Erebus, but something far larger. "Not just one ship, Admiral. An entire hidden fleet. Weapons that rewrite reality itself. Soldiers who exist between dimensions. We have become something the galaxy has never seen before." The implications hit Admiral HFY like a physical blow. If this was just one ship, if there were others like it, the Veltar Empire's entire strategic assessment of humanity was not just wrong, it was catastrophically, impossibly wrong. "How many?" he whispered. "Classified," Darkstorm replied with what might have been amusement. "But I will tell you this, the Erebus is not our most powerful vessel. She's not even in the top 10. Throughout the system, both human and alien ships processed this revelation. The human crews felt a mixture of pride and unease as they realized the true extent of their species' preparations. The Veltar survivors felt the cold grip of existential terror. "Your empire has cataloged 47 human military vessels in this system," Darkstorm continued. "What you failed to detect were the other 216 ships currently surrounding you." Space itself seemed to ripple, and suddenly the system was full of human vessels. Not the crude, conventional ships the Veltar had dismissed, but sleek predators that seemed to bend light around their hulls. Each one bore the subtle signs of technology that operated on principles the galaxy had never imagined. Captain Voidrunner gasped despite herself. Even she hadn't known about most of these ships. Humanity's deception had been so complete that even their own conventional forces had been kept in the dark. "We call it Project Lazarus," Darkstorm explained. "The resurrection of humanity as a galactic power. Not through the conventional path of slow expansion and gradual technological development, but through a quantum leap that places us centuries ahead of anyone who might threaten us." Lieutenant Soul Reaper reported quietly. "Admiral Krexthu's fleet is requesting immediate permission to withdraw from the system, Captain. Their hyperspace drives are spinning up." "Granted," Darkstorm replied. "But Admiral, remember what you've seen here. Remember what humanity is capable of when we stop pretending to be harmless. And remember this above all else. We have been watching you. We know where your worlds are. We know your military capabilities. We know your weaknesses. We have been preparing for this conversation for a very long time." The surviving Veltar. Ships began their emergency jump procedures, desperate to escape the nightmare they had stumbled into. But Darkstorm wasn't finished. "One more thing, Admiral. Your people classified humanity as a Category 3 civilization, primitive, non-threatening, suitable for enslavement. I want you to deliver a message to the Galactic Dominion Council. Tell them humanity is reclassifying itself. To what category?" Krexthu asked, though he dreaded the answer. "Category 0, Darkstorm replied coldly. "We are the category by which all others will now be measured." The first Veltar ships began to vanish into hyperspace, carrying with them news that would shake the foundations of galactic civilization. Admiral Krexthu's flagship was among the last to leave, its damaged hull a testament to humanity's newfound power. As the alien vessels disappeared, Captain Darkstorm turned his attention to the human fleet. The conventional ships floated in formation, their crews still processing what they had witnessed. Captain Voidrunner found herself staring at readouts that challenged everything she thought she knew about her own species. All human vessels. This is Captain Darkstorm of the UESS Erebus. As of this moment, Operation Masquerade is concluded. Humanity no longer needs to hide. The communications channels erupted with questions, requests for clarification, and expressions of disbelief. Commander Nightblade leaned toward Captain Voidrunner, her voice barely above a whisper. "Captain, if what we just saw is real, if we've had this capability all along, why did we allow the Procyon raids? Why did we let the Centauri colonists get enslaved by the Hexarch Combine?" Voidrunner's expression was grim. "Because every defeat, every humiliation, every apparent weakness made our enemies more confident. It made them careless." She paused, watching as the mysterious black ships began to decloak throughout the system. "How do you think we learned so much about Veltar tactics and technology? They've been showing us their capabilities for decades, thinking they were demonstrating their superiority to primitives." The truth was staggering in its implications. Humanity hadn't been the victim of galactic politics. They had been the puppet, master, orchestrating their own apparent weakness to gather intelligence and prepare for this moment. "All ships, prepare to receive classified briefing packets," Darkstorm announced. "What you're about to learn is the real history of human expansion into the galaxy." The data streams that followed painted a picture that would redefine humanity's place in the cosmos. The early colony ships that had been destroyed by alien raiders had actually been evacuated by stealth vessels and relocated to hidden worlds. The technological exchanges that had seemed so one-sided in favor of alien civilizations had actually been elaborate intelligence-gathering operations. The apparent human settlements on the galactic rim weren't frontier outposts. They were monitoring stations, watching and cataloging every species that might pose a threat. Ensign Stardust's voice was tight with emotion as she read through the briefing materials. "Captain, according to this, we've had faster-than-light communication for 30 years. We've been pretending that our ships were limited to light-speed sensors, while we've actually been monitoring everything within a 100-light-year radius of Earth." "The Hegemony War," Lieutenant Soul Reaper added, his voice filled with growing amazement. "The one where humanity barely survived against the insectoid fleets? We threw that war deliberately. We could have ended it in days, but instead we dragged it out for 3 years to study their military doctrine." Captain Darkstorm's voice cut through their discussions. "The galactic community has spent the last century trying to determine humanity's place in the cosmic hierarchy. The answer is simple. We are the hierarchy. We always have been. We've just been polite enough to let others pretend otherwise." The implications were staggering. If humanity had been orchestrating galactic events from behind the scenes, if they had been allowing themselves to appear weak while growing strong, then every major political development of the past century took on new meaning. "Captain Voidrunner," Darkstorm addressed her directly, "your conventional fleet will continue to serve an important role. The galaxy needs to see that humanity has both visible and invisible capabilities. Some threats require diplomatic solutions, others require the subtle touch of conventional warfare. But when faced with extinction, we respond with the Erebus and her sister ships." "How many sister ships?" Voidrunner asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know the answer. "Enough," came the cryptic reply. "The Veltar Armada that just fled will spread word of what happened here. Within days, every major power in the galaxy will know that humanity is not what they believed. Some will seek to negotiate, others will plot our destruction. We'll be ready for both responses." The black ships began to fade from normal space, returning to whatever quantum realm they inhabited between missions. But their message was clear. Humanity had evolved beyond the understanding of their galactic neighbors, and the age of hiding was over. "All vessels return to standard patrol patterns," Darkstorm ordered. "And remember, what happened here today changes everything. Earth is no longer a world to be protected. It's the capital of an empire that spans dimensions." As the Erebus began to phase out of normal space, Captain Darkstorm's final transmission reached every human ship in the system. The galaxy thought they knew what humanity was capable of. Today we showed them they were wrong. Tomorrow, we show them what we're actually capable of. The implications of those words would echo across the galaxy for generations to come. 3 days after the Veltar defeat, the galactic holonet was ablaze, with reports that defied belief. Admiral Krexthu's testimony before the Dominion Council had sent shockwaves through every major civilization, but the responses varied dramatically based on each species' relationship with humanity. On the crystalline world of Nexus Prime, the ethereal conclave convened in emergency session. High arbiter luminescence. Vexandra studied the tactical recordings with growing unrest. The ethereals had always prided themselves on their advanced understanding of quantum mechanics, but the human technology demonstrated in the recordings operated on principles that made their greatest scientists weep with inadequacy. "The weapon signatures," Chief Scientist Radiance Kelmori reported, her translated voice trembling with awe and fear. "They're not just manipulating matter and energy. They're rewriting the fundamental constants of local space-time. The implications. If humans can do this, then everything we understand about physics is merely a suggestion they choose to follow." Meanwhile, in the war chambers of the draconic hegemony, Supreme Warclaw Inferno Wrath Scythe paced before massive, tactical displays showing human space. The draconic species had always respected strength above all else, and what they had witnessed changed their entire perception of the small pink mammals they had once considered potential prey. "Cunning beyond measure," he rumbled to his war council. "For a century, they let us believe them weak while they grew strong in secret. This is not the behavior of prey animals. This is the strategy of apex predators." The response from the machine intelligence known as the Nexus Collective was perhaps the most telling. Their quantum brain networks had processed the Veltar battle data in nanoseconds, reaching a conclusion that sent algorithmic panic through their core programming. Humanity had achieved technological transcendence while maintaining biological consciousness. It was a combination they had calculated to be impossible, but it was the reaction from Earth's supposed allies that proved most illuminating. The Centauri Federation, which had protected human merchant convoys for decades, suddenly realized they had been escorting ships that could have annihilated their entire fleet without effort. Ambassador Stellar Harmony, humanity's representative to the Galactic Trade Commission, found herself fielding increasingly desperate communications from species that now understood they had been patronizing gods. On Earth, in the Hidden Command Center known only as Deep 7, Director Shadow Voidwright reviewed the global response with quiet satisfaction. The chamber, buried beneath the Pacific Ocean, had coordinated humanity's century-long deception with meticulous precision. Phase 1 is complete, she announced to the assembled representatives of Project Lazarus. The galaxy now knows we are not what we appeared to be. Phase 2 begins immediately. General Phantom Nightforge, commander of humanity's visible military forces, studied the deployment orders with growing excitement. Ma'am, if we're moving to Phase 2, does that mean we're revealing the Mars facilities? Mars, Europa, Titan, and the hidden shipyards in the Kuiper Belt, Director Voidwright confirmed. The galaxy believes they've seen our capabilities. Time to show them they've barely glimpsed the surface. The revelation that humanity had been conducting massive industrial operations throughout the solar system while appearing to be confined to Earth and a few struggling colonies would be the second shock to galactic civilization. But it was the third revelation that would truly redefine humanity's position in the cosmic order. The outer colonies? General Nightforge asked quietly. All 47 systems, the director confirmed. The galaxy thinks humanity is confined to one star system. Tomorrow they'll learn we've been secretly colonizing their galaxy for 70 years. The implications were staggering. If humanity had hidden colonies throughout the galaxy, then they had been operating with complete intelligence about every major civilization for decades. Every trade negotiation, every territorial dispute, every military engagement had been observed and analyzed by hidden human monitoring stations. Captain Darkstorm's voice echoed through the chamber via quantum communication from the Erebus. Director, we're detecting massive fleet movements throughout the galaxy. The hegemony is mobilizing their war fleets, the ethereal conclave is activating their dimensional weapons, and the machine collective is beginning rapid military production. Anticipated response, Director Voidwright replied calmly. Some will seek to destroy us before we grow stronger, not realizing we're already stronger than they can imagine. Others will seek alliance, hoping to benefit from association with the new galactic superpower. Both responses serve our purposes. And the third option? Darkstorm asked. The smart ones will do what the Veltar should have done originally. They'll leave us alone and hope we extend them the same courtesy. She smiled grimly. Unfortunately, intelligence and wisdom don't always go hand in hand. As the galactic community struggled to process the revelation of humanity's true capabilities, a new message began broadcasting from Earth on all frequencies. It was simple, direct, and would reshape the political landscape of the galaxy. 2. All civilizations receiving this transmission. Humanity formally withdraws from all existing treaties, trade agreements, and diplomatic accords established under our previous classification as a developing species. New negotiations may be requested through appropriate channels. Be advised that humanity's territorial claims and strategic interests have been significantly expanded. The age of human deception was over. The age of human dominance was about to begin. 6 months after what historians would call the Veltar revelation, the galaxy had settled into an uneasy new equilibrium. The emergency session of the Galactic Dominion Council had lasted for weeks, with every major civilization struggling to understand their place in a universe where humanity was no longer the helpless newcomer. Captain Nexus Voidrunner stood on the observation deck of humanity's newest diplomatic station, positioned at the galactic crossroads where 15 major hyperspace routes converged. The structure itself was a statement of intent, a massive construct that dwarfed anything previously built, incorporating technologies that seemed to bend space around its impossible architecture. The ethereal conclave has formally requested a non-aggression pact, Ambassador Stellar Harmony reported, reviewing the diplomatic communications that had been flooding in daily. They're offering to share their dimensional research in exchange for assurance that we won't, quote, rewrite their homeworld out of existence. Voidrunner smiled grimly. The Ethereals had been among the first to understand the implications of humanity's quantum manipulation capabilities. If humans could alter local physics at will, then the concept of traditional warfare became meaningless. And the draconic hegemony? There, requesting a formal challenge duel between their greatest warrior and our champion, Harmony replied with obvious amusement. They seem to think this is all about personal combat prowess. In a way, they're not wrong, came a familiar voice from behind them. Both women turned to see Captain Quantum Darkstorm materializing from what appeared to be empty air. The Erebus was nowhere to be seen, but his ability to appear anywhere in the galaxy at will had become a constant reminder of humanity's new capabilities. Captain, Voidrunner acknowledged, how goes the pacification of the outer sectors? Remarkably well, Darkstorm replied. The Hexarch Combine attempted to attack our revealed colonies in the Vega system, past tense being the operative phrase. His expression remained neutral, but the implications were clear. The surviving Hexarch ships are currently broadcasting warnings to stay away from any system with a human presence. The transformation had been swift and total. Within weeks of the Veltar incident, humanity had revealed the true scope of their galactic presence. Hidden colonies became thriving worlds. Monitoring stations revealed themselves as military installations. The few dozen human ships the galaxy had known about were joined by thousands of vessels that seemed to operate on principles that challenged the known laws of physics. The Machine Collective has submitted a formal query, Ambassador Harmony continued, consulting her reports. They want to know if humanity achieved technological transcendence through biological augmentation or artificial intelligence integration. What did you tell them? Darkstorm asked. The truth, she replied with a slight smile, that we achieved it by being human. It was more accurate than most realized. Humanity's breakthrough hadn't come from adopting alien technologies or abandoning their biological nature. Instead, they had found ways to extend human consciousness into quantum dimensions while maintaining the creativity and intuition that made them unique in the galaxy. Director Shadow Voidright's voice echoed through the station's communication system. All senior staff to Conference Alpha. Priority briefing on the Andromeda situation. The three officers made their way to the secured briefing room, where a holographic display showed not their familiar galaxy, but the neighboring spiral of Andromeda. The image was marked with hundreds of indicators, showing massive fleet movements. The Andromeda Consortium has detected our expansion beyond the galactic rim, Director Voidright began without preamble. They're mobilizing for what they term a preemptive intervention to prevent humanity from spreading to their galaxy. Captain Voidrunner felt a chill. The Andromeda Consortium was legendary, a collection of civilizations so advanced that they had voluntarily isolated themselves from the younger galaxies to avoid accidentally destroying developing species through casual contact. Numbers? Darkstorm asked quietly. Conservative estimates suggest 10,000 vessels, each roughly equivalent to a small moon in terms of raw firepower, the director replied. They're not coming to negotiate. And our response? Director. Voidright's expression was unreadable. We informed them that humanity has already colonized 17 star systems in Andromeda, and that any aggressive action against human interests will result in the activation of Protocol Omega. The silence that followed was profound. Protocol. Omega was theoretical, a weapon system that existed more as mathematical concept than physical reality. Until now. Director, Ambassador Harmony said carefully, Protocol Omega was never meant to be actually implemented. The simulations suggested it could affect entire galaxy clusters. The simulations were conservative, came the director's calm reply. We've been refining the calculations for decades. Captain Darkstorm nodded slowly. When do we make contact with the consortium? We don't, Director Voidwright replied. They're coming to us. Their advance fleet enters our galaxy in 72 hours. The Erebus and her sister ships will be waiting. As the briefing concluded, the three officers found themselves contemplating humanity's rapid ascension from galactic newcomer to cosmic superpower. The transformation had been so complete that even they sometimes forgot the deception they had maintained for so long. Strange, Voidrunner mused as they walked through the station's corridors. 6 months ago, we were pretending to be help.